On the distant planet of Letheria, the sky glowed in soft shades of lavender and gold as two suns began their slow descent. Floating gardens swayed gently above the city, suspended by invisible energy fields that shimmered in the fading light. It was the day of the selection ceremony, the most important event on the planet where every year, Letherians chose partners not only for themselves, but to unite their civilizations in alliances that shaped the galaxy. Among the thousands gathered in the grand amphitheater stood Zira, a young Letherian woman known for her intelligence, her sharp mind, and her unmatched skill with energy manipulation. Her silver blue eyes reflected the sunset as she observed the crowd with quiet curiosity. Despite her talents, despite her grace and her wisdom, she had never been chosen. Year after year, others around her had been selected while she remained unnoticed. She had learned not to let it bother her. After all, her work in interstellar research and energy fields brought her satisfaction that many could not imagine. Yet, as she watched others being chosen, a small pang of loneliness stirred inside her. She had always wondered why no one saw her for more than just her abilities, why no one had looked at her and seen her. Zira straightened her posture, letting the light of the twin suns reflect off her sleek ceremonial robes. She would not appear desperate. She would remain calm, composed, and patient. The amphitheater was filled with beings from countless planets. Their appearances were as varied as the stars themselves. Tall beings with translucent skin, creatures with 4 arms, others with delicate wings that caught the sunlight. All of them gathered in harmony for this ritual, a celebration of life, unity, and cooperation. Among the distinguished visitors were humans, a rare sight in this part of the galaxy. Humans had only recently begun to travel between star systems, and their presence at Letheria's ceremony was unusual. They were here as ambassadors, observers of a culture that seemed both strange and magnificent to them. Zira's gaze wandered across the audience until it settled on one human. He was not flashy, nor did he stand out like the others who sought attention. But there was something in his posture, a calm confidence, a quiet intelligence that drew her in. His name was Ethan, and though humans were smaller in stature compared to many Letherians, he carried himself with an ease and courage that many of the Letherians lacked. He observed the ceremony with keen interest, his eyes bright with curiosity, and for reasons Zira could not yet explain, she felt a pull toward him. The ceremony began with a low hum that vibrated through the air, a melody created by the Letherian energy fields. Lights shimmered across the amphitheater, projecting images of past unions and great achievements of the Letherian people. The elders of Letheria, beings of great age and wisdom, appeared at the center of the platform, their robes flowing like liquid metal. Their presence commanded attention and the entire crowd fell silent. One by one, the elders called forward those who had been selected. Pairs were formed, hands touching briefly, exchanging promises and energy signatures that signified commitment and respect. Some of the chosen ones glowed with joy, while others looked nervous, uncertain about the responsibilities that awaited them. Zira watched, her expression serene, though inside a small part of her wondered if she would ever feel that connection, that spark of recognition that others seemed to experience so easily. Hours passed. Names were called. Pairs were formed. Yet Zira remained unchosen. Whispers floated around her, not unkind but curious. Why has no one selected her? A young Letherian whispered to a friend. She is talented, beautiful, brilliant. Surely someone will choose her. The friend shrugged, eyes wide, reflecting the lights of the amphitheater. Zira ignored the comments. She had grown accustomed to solitude, finding comfort in her research and her quiet explorations of Letheria's vast knowledge archives. Still, she could not deny the pang that arose when she saw other couples walking together, hands linked, glowing softly with the energy of their bond. The feeling was not jealousy, but a longing, for recognition, for understanding, for a partner who could see her not just as a Letherian or as a scholar, but as her. The ceremony began to wind down. The elders addressed the crowd, speaking of unity, progress, and the importance of choosing wisely. They reminded everyone that love and partnership were not only personal choices, but commitments that could influence civilizations. Their words were filled with wisdom, echoing through the amphitheater and stirring a sense of purpose in all who listened. As the crowd dispersed, Zira remained where she was, gazing out at the floating gardens. The twin suns were nearly at the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city and bathing everything in golden light. She felt a presence beside her and turned to see Ethan, the human she had noticed earlier, standing quietly. His eyes reflected the light, and for a moment there was silence between them. "You seem different from the others," Ethan said softly, his voice calm but curious. "I have seen many Letherians today, but you seem to think differently. I like that." Zira raised an eyebrow, a small smile tugging at her lips. "And what makes you think I am different?" she asked, her tone both teasing and cautious. Ethan shrugged, looking slightly embarrassed. "I cannot explain it. There is a focus about you, a calmness, a clarity. Most of the Letherians I saw were trying to impress or be chosen. You simply are." Zira's smile widened slightly. No one had ever spoken to her this way. Humans were new to her world, and yet Ethan's honesty felt refreshing. She found herself wanting to learn more about him, to understand why he seemed unaffected by the grandeur of Letheria, why he saw things others did not. They walked together through the gardens, the soft hum of energy beneath their feet, resonating in harmony with the floating flora. Zira showed him the intricate energy streams that powered the gardens, explaining their delicate balance. Ethan listened attentively, asking questions that revealed both curiosity and insight. Zira was impressed, not just by his knowledge but by his ability to connect ideas, to think beyond what was presented to him. For the first time in many years, Zira felt a sense of possibility. Perhaps the universe was not as predictable as she had believed. Perhaps connections could form across worlds, across species, in ways no one had expected. The thought was thrilling, frightening, and invigorating all at once. As night fell, the amphitheater lights dimmed, leaving the floating gardens bathed in a soft, iridescent glow. Zira and Ethan stood at the edge of a platform overlooking the city, the two suns now replaced by the soft light of Letheria's moons. "You seem happy," Ethan said quietly, "even though you were not chosen." Zira turned to him, her eyes reflecting the moon's light. "Happiness is not always found in what others choose for you," she said softly. "Sometimes it is found in what you discover yourself, and sometimes in the unexpected connections you make." Ethan nodded, a gentle smile on his face. Then perhaps being unchosen was the beginning, not the end. Zira looked at him, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in her chest. She could not yet name it: friendship, admiration, curiosity, or something more, but she knew it was important. For the first time, she realized that her story was not over, and that perhaps the path she had been waiting for all her life had only just begun. Above them, the moon shone brighter, casting silver beams over the floating gardens. And in that light, for the first time in many years, Zira felt truly seen. The day after the selection ceremony, the city of Letheria awoke under a sky streaked with soft shades of pink and gold. The floating gardens glistened in the early light, dew sparkling on delicate leaves suspended mid-air. The city, always humming with energy, seemed quieter now. For Zira, the world felt different. She could still remember the way the human, Ethan, had looked at her, his calm eyes reflecting interest and curiosity instead of judgment. Zira walked along the pathways of the gardens, her steps careful, almost thoughtful. She often came here to think, to explore, and to enjoy the harmony of energy fields that sustained the plants in the city. Today, however, she felt a light anticipation, a subtle flutter in her chest. Somehow she knew she would see Ethan again, as if on cue she did. Ethan wandered through the same section of the garden, slightly out of place among the elegant Letherians, yet moving with a natural ease. He seemed fascinated by everything: the floating flowers, the streams of glowing energy, and the creatures that flitted through the air like living sparks of light. When their eyes met, both smiled, and Zira felt the first warmth of connection she had experienced in a long time. "You are always here in the morning?" Ethan asked, tilting his head slightly. "It feels alive," calmer than the ceremony. Zira nodded, leading him along a narrow pathway suspended in mid-air. The gardens are the heart of Letheria. Most Letherians rarely spend time here. They are focused on appearances, politics, or partnerships. Few come just to think, to observe, or to enjoy the balance of the world. Ethan's eyes followed the glowing plants, and he leaned closer to examine a delicate flower whose petals seemed to shimmer with soft light. "It's incredible," he said. "Everything here feels intelligent, like the planet itself knows what it's doing." Zira smiled. "Letherians have learned to listen to the energy streams. Each plant, each crystal, each floating stone responds to thought and intention. It is a harmony of life and energy. Few understand it as deeply as I do, but anyone can feel its beauty. Ethan nodded, his curiosity shining. I wish humans could experience this. Most of our worlds are noisy, chaotic, unpredictable. Not bad, but very different from this harmony. Zira tilted her head, intrigued. Humans adapt. You can create, destroy, rebuild, all with a few tools and ideas. That is a power few species have. We shape energy. You shape reality. Ethan blinked. I never thought about it that way. Thank you. You make humans sound important. Zyra's lips curved into a faint smile. You are important. Not because of strength or size, but because of your mind, your curiosity, and your courage. You see the world differently, and that perspective is rare, even among Letherians. For a moment, silence passed between them. The hum of energy beneath their feet and the gentle rustle of floating leaves filled the space. Then Ethan asked, a hint of hesitation in his voice, Do you often feel unseen? Like people look at you but never really notice you? Zira's eyes softened. All the time. I have learned to be patient, to wait for those who can see beyond the surface. But it is tiring. Some Letherians choose partners for tradition, for advantage, for appearances, rarely for connection, for understanding. I am not used to being seen for who I truly am. Ethan's gaze was steady. Then maybe you just haven't met the right person yet. Zira felt a spark of something unfamiliar, a warmth that was not just curiosity or friendship. She nodded slowly. Perhaps. They continued walking, and Zyra showed Ethan the energy cascade, a series of floating streams where Letherians trained to manipulate energy for transportation, communication, and creation. Ethan watched in awe as Zira demonstrated her skill, lifting a stream of blue energy into a spiral that hovered between them. The display was graceful, precise, and effortless, yet it carried a subtle strength that commanded attention. Ethan clapped softly. That was amazing. You make it look so natural, but I know it takes years of practice. Zira tilted her head, a faint smile on her face. It does, but you two have skills I admire. Humans can adapt quickly, create devices and tools in ways most species cannot. You solve problems with creativity, not just power. That is rare. Ethan laughed lightly. I never thought a Letherian would compliment a human like that. Why not? Zira asked, curious. Why should species matter when understanding matters more? The conversation flowed easily, bridging the gap between two worlds. Zyra found herself explaining how Letherian energy could be used to heal, to transport, to communicate. Ethan, in turn, spoke of human technology, their ingenuity, and their ability to innovate even in the most challenging conditions. They shared ideas, theories, and small experiments, learning from each other in ways neither expected. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light over the gardens, they came to a quiet terrace overlooking a river of floating lights. The energy of Letheria pulsed gently beneath them, and the city below seemed alive in harmony with the planet. Ethan looked at Zira with genuine admiration. You're extraordinary, Zira. I've seen many things in my travels, but nothing like this, nothing like you. Zira's heart quickened. She had never been called extraordinary by anyone, let alone someone from another world. She felt a mix of pride and vulnerability. Thank you, Ethan. That means more than you realize. For a long moment, they simply stood together, observing the city, feeling the hum of energy, and enjoying the quiet. The connection between them grew subtle but undeniable. They were from different worlds, different species, yet their minds and hearts seemed to resonate on a similar frequency. Later, as the day progressed, Zira invited Ethan to her research chamber, a place few Letherians entered. Walls of glowing crystal displayed streams of information about energy, planets, and civilizations across the galaxy. Zira showed him experiments, diagrams, and projections, explaining complex ideas in simple terms. Ethan listened attentively, asking questions that revealed deep understanding and insight. You grasp things quickly, Zira noted, impressed. Most visitors find this overwhelming. Ethan shrugged, smiling. I like to understand things, and I've always enjoyed learning from people who know more than I do. They spent hours together, sharing knowledge, exchanging perspectives, and discovering a bond that transcended species. As night approached, the chamber glowed softly in blue and silver light. casting long shadows that danced along the walls. Zyra realized she had spent the entire day with Ethan without noticing the time passing. She had never felt this way with anyone before. Not with a Letherian, not with anyone. Finally, Ethan stood at the doorway, looking at her with a gentle smile. "I should return to my quarters," he said softly. "But I hope we can continue this. There's much more I want to learn and much more I want to share." Zyra nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. "Yes, I would like that very much." As Ethan left, Zyra remained in the chamber, gazing at the softly glowing crystals. For the first time, she felt hope. Not the hope of being chosen by tradition, but the hope of finding connection, understanding, and perhaps something more. She realized that being unchosen by her peers did not make her incomplete. It simply meant that her path was waiting for someone extraordinary, someone willing to see her for who she truly was. The next days passed with Zyra and Ethan exploring Letheria together. They visited the crystal archives, studied the energy flows in the floating gardens, and even experimented with combining human technology and Letherian energy. Each experience brought them closer, their conversations deepening, their laughter growing. They began to understand that while their worlds were different, their values, curiosity, courage, and respect for life, were strikingly similar. Meanwhile, whispers among the Letherians began to spread. Many were surprised, even skeptical, that Zyra spent so much time with a human. Some elders frowned, worried about the implications of an interspecies connection. Others, however, were intrigued, seeing the potential for collaboration and new ideas that could benefit all Letherians. Zyra paid little attention to the gossip. She was learning something far more valuable, that understanding, empathy, and shared curiosity could bridge worlds more effectively than tradition ever could. By the end of the week, Zyra realized that she no longer felt lonely. She had discovered someone who saw her for who she truly was, and in return, she saw him, his courage, his curiosity, and his determination. The connection they shared was rare, unexpected, and powerful. For the first time in her life, Zyra believed that perhaps her future was not defined by selection ceremonies or traditions, but by the choices she and Ethan would make together. And as the moons of Letheria rose high in the night sky, casting silver light across the floating gardens, Zyra felt an undeniable certainty. Something extraordinary was beginning, something that could change not only her life but the future of both their worlds. The glow of Letheria's twin suns bathed the floating gardens in soft gold as Zyra and Ethan walked side by side. Days had passed since their first long conversation, and the connection between them had deepened. They spoke freely now, exploring ideas about energy, technology, and the future of their civilizations. Yet beneath the joy of discovery, a quiet tension began to grow. Word of their growing closeness had reached the Letherian Council, a group of elders who oversaw all matters of tradition, politics, and interspecies relations. Some members were intrigued by the human presence, curious about what cooperation with humans could bring. Others were wary, worried that Letheria's careful balance might be disturbed by an outsider. One morning, Zyra received a summons to the council hall, a monumental structure floating above the central city, its walls carved from glowing crystal and supported by energy streams that pulsed with life. She entered the hall with measured steps, her mind calm but alert. The elders sat in a semicircle, their eyes reflecting the soft light of the room. "Zyra," said Elder Talion, the head of the council, his voice low and resonant, "we have observed your interactions with the human Ethan. You spend much time with him. Tell us, what do you see in this human that you do not see among your own people?" Zyra's heart beat steadily. She had expected this moment, though not so soon. She spoke carefully, choosing each word. "Ethan is curious, courageous, and creative. He sees the world in ways most Letherians do not. He respects life, energy, and knowledge. In his presence I learn, I grow, and I feel understood. These are qualities rare even among Letherians." Another elder, Vezira, leaned forward. "We understand your admiration, Zyra, but a human is unpredictable. Their species lacks our experience in energy manipulation and interstellar diplomacy. Should you form a bond with him, you risk not only yourself but the balance of alliances we maintain with other civilizations." Zyra held her ground. "I do not disregard the importance of our alliances or responsibilities. But Ethan is not just a human. He has shown wisdom, patience, and insight beyond his species. His perspective could strengthen Letheria, not weaken it. A murmur rippled through the council. Some elders nodded, intrigued by her words. Others frowned, unconvinced. Elder Talion's voice cut through the tension. Letheria has always valued knowledge, courage, and unity. But interspecies unions are delicate matters. The decision is yours, Zira, yet you must consider the consequences carefully. Zira inclined her head. I will. But I will also follow what my mind and heart recognize as truth. I cannot ignore potential because it is unfamiliar. The council remained silent after her words. Zira bowed respectfully and left the hall, her mind both resolved and thoughtful. Outside, the floating gardens stretched endlessly, a reminder of harmony and balance. She walked through them, considering the path ahead. She had chosen to embrace curiosity and connection over fear and tradition, yet she knew the challenge of acceptance had only begun. Ethan awaited her near the energy cascade, where Letherians trained their skills. When he saw her, his eyes brightened. How did it go? He asked. Zira smiled faintly. It was expected. Some are wary, some are curious. But I have spoken truth. That is all I can do for now. Ethan stepped closer, a reassuring presence. Whatever happens, Zira, I am with you. You do not have to face their doubts alone. For a moment, she considered the risk. Partnering with a human in Letheria was unheard of. Many would disapprove. But the warmth in Ethan's eyes reminded her why she had felt drawn to him in the first place. Courage, curiosity, and understanding. These were the values she could trust. Over the next days, Zira and Ethan continued their explorations, often drawing small groups of curious Letherians who observed the unusual human-Letherian collaboration. Some were intrigued, eager to learn, while others watched with suspicion. Yet everywhere they went, the pair demonstrated that cooperation and shared knowledge could yield unexpected results. In one demonstration, Zira taught Ethan to channel minor energy streams safely. Ethan, in turn, showed Zira a simple human invention, an energy converter that could store power for longer durations. Together, they combined Letherian energy manipulation with human technology, producing a luminous sphere that hovered in mid-air, pulsing with soft blue light. Letherians who witnessed this experiment gasped in awe. Some whispered that perhaps humans could offer something their species had never considered. Others shook their heads, uncertain about the implications of such collaboration. Yet the energy sphere was more than just a display of skill. It symbolized what could be achieved when curiosity, courage, and mutual respect transcended tradition. Zira realized that her connection with Ethan was not just personal. It held the potential to reshape perspectives, not only on Letheria but across civilizations. One evening, as the twin suns set, painting the sky with amber and violet, Zira and Ethan sat on a terrace overlooking the floating city. Do you ever worry, Ethan asked softly, that your people will never accept us? Zira considered this, her eyes on the glowing gardens below. Some may never accept it. Tradition runs deep, but acceptance is not always immediate. Sometimes understanding comes slowly. One observation, one example at a time. What matters is that we act with honesty, courage, and respect. Ethan smiled, admiration in his gaze. That is why I trust you, Zira. You see beyond fear. You see possibility. Zira felt her heart swell, but she remained composed. And that is why I trust you, Ethan. You do not seek to impress or control. You seek to understand. That is rare in any species. Their bond grew stronger each day, not only through shared knowledge but through mutual respect and admiration. Zira introduced Ethan to her closest colleagues, who were fascinated by the human's ingenuity and courage. Some became allies, supporting the idea that humans could offer new perspectives and solutions. Others remained cautious, watching silently, waiting to see if this bond would last or falter. Despite the challenges, Zira felt confident. She had long believed that humans were different, capable of achieving greatness through curiosity and determination. Ethan embodied these qualities, proving that courage, intelligence, and respect could cross the boundaries of species. But not everyone shared her optimism. A group of Letherian elders began discussing the implications of this connection. If this bond strengthens, one elder murmured, we may have to reconsider our approach to interspecies alliances. Humans could become a force that cannot be ignored. Another elder frowned. And yet, we cannot allow impulsive unions to disrupt the balance we have maintained for millennia. We must watch closely. Zira was aware of the scrutiny but did not let it deter her. She knew that progress often met resistance, and she had chosen a path of exploration and understanding. With Ethan by her side, she felt capable of facing any doubt, any challenge, and any prejudice. One night, as the moons of Letheria cast silver light over the floating gardens, Zira and Ethan stood together on a high terrace. The city below sparkled like a river of stars. "Do you think we are ready for what comes next?" Ethan asked. Zira's gaze swept across the horizon. "Ready or not, we cannot turn back. There will always be those who doubt, who fear change, but we can show them that courage, curiosity, and respect can achieve more than fear ever could." Ethan nodded, his expression resolute. "Then we move forward together." As they stood side by side, the soft hum of energy beneath their feet resonated with the rhythm of their hearts. In that moment, they understood that their bond was more than friendship or admiration. It was a partnership built on shared values, mutual trust, and the belief that humans and Letherians could learn from each other in ways no one had imagined. The challenge of acceptance had begun, but Zira and Ethan were ready. Together, they would face the scrutiny of their world, the doubts of tradition, and the uncertainty of the future. They would demonstrate that courage, curiosity, and understanding could bridge worlds, and in the quiet glow of Letheria's moons, Zira felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. For the first time in her life, she realized that being unchosen by her peers had not been a limitation. It had been a preparation, a way for her to discover a connection that could change not only her life but the future of both their worlds. The amphitheater of Letheria shimmered under the light of the twin suns, the crowd gathering once more for the annual Unity Festival. This event was not only a celebration of partnerships but also a showcase of the potential that collaboration and understanding could bring to the galaxy. Letherians, humans, and other visiting species filled the terraces, their eyes reflecting excitement, curiosity, and pride. Zira walked through the crowd with purpose. Today, she would make a choice that had been building in her mind and heart for weeks. She had thought long about the Letherian Council's warnings, about tradition and appearances, and about the whispers of doubt that followed her and Ethan wherever they went. But her mind was clear, her resolve firm. She would no longer wait for recognition, for approval, or for some unseen hand to select her. Today, she would act. Ethan stood at the edge of the platform, looking slightly out of place among the Letherian grandeur. Yet he carried himself with his usual calm confidence, his eyes scanning the crowd for her. When they met, a subtle smile passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of their connection, their understanding, and the courage it had taken to reach this moment. The festival began with music, soft and harmonious, resonating with the energy of the amphitheater. Letherians demonstrated their skills in energy manipulation, humans displayed innovative technology, and interspecies groups showcased creative collaborations. The crowd cheered at each display, their excitement building as the day progressed. Zira stepped onto the main platform, the crowd's attention gradually turning toward her. The murmurs began, some curious, some skeptical. She raised her hand slightly, feeling the energy of the amphitheater respond to her presence. The floating lights around the platform shimmered brighter, casting a soft glow on her robes and reflecting in her silver blue eyes. "Today," she began, her voice calm yet commanding, "we celebrate unity, courage, and the power of understanding." The crowd grew quiet, hanging on her words. "I have learned that connection is not defined by tradition alone, nor by expectation, but by choice, respect, and the courage to see beyond appearances." Ethan watched silently, admiration in his eyes. He understood the weight of her words, the bravery it took for a Letherian to challenge centuries of expectation so publicly. Yet he knew that whatever came next would be extraordinary. Zira took a deep breath, the energy of the amphitheater swirling gently around her. She turned toward Ethan, stepping closer. The crowd fell silent, sensing that something unusual and important was about to happen. "Ethan," she said, her voice steady, carrying across the amphitheater, "you have shown me courage, curiosity, and understanding. You see me as I truly am, and in return I see you for your ingenuity, your honesty, and your heart." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Will you be my husband?" A hush fell over the amphitheater. Letherians and visitors alike stared in disbelief. The proposal was unprecedented, No Letherian had ever asked a human to join them in such a bond. Some gasped, others whispered, and a few elders exchanged serious glances. Yet in that silence there was also awe, the recognition of courage and the potential for change. Ethan blinked, his face a mix of surprise, joy, and certainty. He took a step forward, meeting Zira's gaze. "Yes," he said simply, yet with unwavering confidence. "I will be your husband. I cannot imagine a future without this connection, without learning from you and sharing my life with you." The amphitheater erupted, not in chaos, but in a mixture of astonishment, admiration, and excitement. Some Letherians murmured in disbelief, their minds struggling to comprehend this unprecedented bond. Others cheered softly, sensing the courage it took to act with honesty and heart. Even some elders nodded subtly, recognizing the wisdom in Zira's choice. Zira and Ethan stepped closer together, their hands brushing, fingers intertwining as they activated a small energy field around them. It shimmered softly, a symbol of their union, their courage, and the bridging of worlds. The crowd watched in silence, captivated by the demonstration of unity and mutual respect. One of the younger Letherians, unable to contain curiosity, asked, "Why a human? Why not a Letherian like tradition expects?" Zira smiled gently. "Because connection is not limited by species. It is defined by understanding, respect, and shared values. Ethan challenges me, inspires me, and shares a perspective that few Letherians ever have. That is why." The elders watched carefully, weighing her words. Elder Talion, who had once expressed concern, now spoke quietly to the council. "Perhaps she is right. Courage, curiosity, and respect are not bound by tradition. Perhaps this is an opportunity for growth, not disruption." The day continued with renewed energy. People approached Zira and Ethan, some with questions, others with admiration. They demonstrated small projects together, combining Letherian energy and human ingenuity in ways never seen before. A floating garden that adapted automatically to environmental changes, an energy conduit that could store power for distant cities, and a communication device that bridged species were just some of their creations. Through it all, Zira realized that the bold step she had taken did more than unite her with Ethan. It began to reshape perspectives. Letherians who had once doubted now observed the possibilities, seeing the strength of courage, creativity, and mutual respect in action. Humans, too, gained recognition not as outsiders but as collaborators capable of contributing to civilizations far beyond their own. As evening fell and the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting amber and violet light across the floating gardens, Zira and Ethan stood on the main platform overlooking the city. The crowd had dispersed, but the energy of the day lingered, shimmering in the air like soft music. Ethan turned to her, eyes bright with admiration. "You were incredible today. I knew you were brave, but to stand before everyone and speak your truth, it was more than I could have imagined." Zira smiled, her gaze steady. "It was not just bravery. It was choice. We can choose fear, or we can choose understanding. Today I chose understanding and the courage to act on it." Ethan nodded. "And in doing so, you have not only changed your path, but perhaps the future of Letheria as well." Zira looked out over the city, feeling a sense of purpose she had never known before. For the first time, she realized that her life had been preparing her for this moment. Not for recognition, but for partnership, collaboration, and change. She was no longer merely a scholar or a Letherian observer. She was a leader, a bridge between worlds, and a symbol of what courage and understanding could achieve. As night fully settled over Letheria, the moons rose, casting silver beams across the floating gardens. Zira and Ethan stood together, hands entwined, their energy fields glowing softly around them. The city, the garden, the amphitheater, all seemed to resonate with the promise of new beginnings, of partnerships that transcended tradition, species, and expectation. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the hum of energy and the distant whispers of the city below, Zira felt a certainty that had been missing from her life for years. She had acted with courage, chosen connection, and embraced possibility. The path ahead would not be easy, but with Ethan by her side, she knew that anything was possible. The bold proposal had not only changed her life, but had begun to shift the balance of perception across Letheria. The message was clear. Courage, curiosity, and understanding could bridge worlds. Tradition was not a cage, but a starting point, and those who dared to act with heart and wisdom could reshape the future. Zira squeezed Ethan's hand, feeling the warmth and certainty of their bond. "We are ready," she whispered. Ethan smiled, his eyes reflecting the soft glow of the energy fields. "Yes, Zira, together we are ready." Above them, the stars began to shine in the Letherian sky, heralding a new era, one of unity, courage, and the boundless possibilities that arose when two worlds chose to see each other, not with doubt but with trust and understanding. The city of Lytheria shimmered under the soft glow of its moons, the floating gardens reflecting silver light across the crystalline buildings. Zyra and Ethan walked together through the central plaza, their hands intertwined, their presence drawing quiet admiration from those around them. Word of their union had spread across the city, and even distant planets had begun to hear of the human-Letherian partnership that defied tradition but embodied courage, understanding, and vision. The Letherian Council had convened again, this time not to question Zira, but to observe the possibilities that her choice had brought. Elder Talion, once cautious, now watched with quiet approval as Zyra and Ethan guided a group of young Letherians and humans through an energy demonstration. The children laughed and experimented, their curiosity unrestrained, blending human ingenuity with Letherian energy manipulation. Zyra had grown into a new role, not just as a scholar but as a leader, a teacher, and a symbol of possibility. She had discovered that courage and wisdom were not bound by species, nor by tradition, and that when humans and Letherians worked together, they could achieve things neither could alone. Ethan's calm intelligence and inventive mind complemented her energy skills perfectly, forming a partnership that inspired others to think differently about the universe and its endless possibilities. In the floating gardens, Zira and Ethan unveiled a new project, a combined energy technology conduit designed to share power efficiently between planets. Humans and Letherians worked side by side, experimenting, refining, and learning from each other. The conduit glowed with a soft blue light, humming gently as it linked the energy streams of the gardens with distant cities. This invention was a symbol not just of collaboration but of trust, respect, and shared purpose. A group of visiting species approached, their forms varied and fascinating. "We have heard of your achievements," one said, her voice melodic and resonant. "It is rare for two species to work together so effectively." "What you have done is remarkable," Zira smiled. "It is not just what we have done, but how we have approached it. Understanding each other's strengths, learning from one another, and respecting our differences has made all the difference." Ethan added, "Humans are often underestimated. We may not have the long experience of some species, but our creativity, curiosity, and willingness to learn allow us to contribute in ways others might not expect. When combined with Letherian energy knowledge, the results can be extraordinary." The visiting delegates exchanged glances, impressed not only by the technology, but by the philosophy behind it. They saw that collaboration and mutual respect could transcend centuries of separation and even species barriers. Zyra and Ethan's partnership was not merely personal, it was a model for interstellar cooperation. Back in the city, Letherians began to embrace humans more openly. Young Letherians joined Ethan's workshops, fascinated by human inventions and problem-solving approaches. Humans explored Letherian techniques in energy manipulation, learning to blend technology and energy in new ways. Friendships formed, ideas flourished, and a wave of creativity spread across the city. Even skeptics began to change. Elder Vasara, who had once doubted Zyra's choices, now observed from afar, nodding thoughtfully. "Perhaps this is the way forward," she said quietly to Talion. "Humans may indeed offer insights and solutions we have not considered. Courage and curiosity are as powerful as energy itself." Zyra and Ethan's influence extended beyond the city. Other planets in the galaxy, hearing of the Letherian-human partnership, began to open their minds to similar collaborations. Humans were no longer seen as outsiders or inexperienced travelers. They were innovators, thinkers, and partners capable of contributing to civilizations far beyond their own. One evening, as the moons reflected silver light across the floating gardens, Zyra and Ethan sat quietly together. The city hummed softly below them, alive with energy and collaboration. "Do you realize what we've done?" Ethan asked, a soft smile on his face. "It's not just our partnership, it's changing minds, worlds, and the way people see humans." Zyra leaned against him, her heart full. I know, and it is just the beginning. There will always be challenges, but courage, respect, and understanding will guide us. This is what I have been waiting for all my life. Not to be chosen, but to choose, to learn, and to grow with someone extraordinary. Ethan kissed her hand gently. And together we can inspire more than just our world. We can inspire the galaxy. Their partnership became a beacon of hope and possibility. Humans were invited to share knowledge, lead workshops, and collaborate on projects that spanned planets. Litherians, inspired by the Union, explored new methods of teaching, innovation, and diplomacy. Other species began to reach out, curious and eager to understand how humans and Litherians had bridged their differences so successfully. Zira realized that the very thing she had once feared, being unchosen, had led her to this path. It had prepared her to embrace courage over tradition, curiosity over caution, and love over fear. The union with Ethan was not only a personal triumph, but a statement to the galaxy. Humans, though new to interstellar travel, had qualities that could change civilizations for the better. Together, Zira and Ethan created new schools of learning, where humans and Litherians collaborated on energy research, technology, and exploration. They trained the next generation of leaders who would continue to bridge worlds, emphasizing creativity, courage, and respect for life. The children laughed, experimented, and dreamed freely, inspired by the example of two beings who had dared to defy expectation. As years passed, the Litherian-human collaboration became a model throughout the galaxy. Humans were no longer just observers, they were innovators, thinkers, and partners. Litherians learned new ways to apply their energy skills. Humans discovered new methods of problem-solving. And together they achieved technological and cultural advancements that reshaped their world. Zira often reflected on the moment she had asked Ethan to be her husband. It had been bold, unexpected, and entirely her choice. That moment had not only united two beings from different worlds, but had sparked a movement of understanding and collaboration across galaxies. One night, under the silver glow of Litheria's moons, Zira and Ethan stood in the floating gardens, watching as children experimented with energy fields and technology. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" Zira asked softly. Ethan smiled, his eyes reflecting the lights of the garden. "I think about it every day. You saw something in me, I saw something in you, and together we created something bigger than ourselves. That is the true power of connection." Zira nodded. "It is, and it proves that courage, understanding, and curiosity can shape the future in ways no one could predict. Humans are capable of great things, not because of strength or numbers, but because of heart, mind, and determination." Ethan wrapped his arm around her shoulder. "And Litherians are capable of greatness when they choose to embrace the unknown. Together we are unstoppable." Above them, the moons shone bright, casting silver beams across the floating gardens. The city hummed with life, energy, and possibility. Across the galaxy, whispers of the Litherian-human partnership spread, inspiring species to look beyond differences, to embrace curiosity, courage, and understanding. And in that moment, Zira realized that her life, once marked by solitude and observation, had transformed into a journey of leadership, partnership, and inspiration. The path she had once walked alone was now shared, not just with Ethan, but with a galaxy ready to learn from their courage and vision. For the first time in history, humans were seen as more than visitors. They were partners, innovators, and a reminder that greatness could come from anyone willing to see, learn, and act with heart. Zira squeezed Ethan's hand, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the garden. "We have started something extraordinary," she said. Ethan smiled, his gaze steady and full of trust. "And it will continue, Zira, for us, for the children, and for every world willing to believe in the power of connection." As the stars shone above Litheria, and the energy of the gardens pulsed softly beneath them, the two looked out over the city, their hearts full, their minds focused, and their bond unbreakable. They had proven that courage, curiosity, and respect could bridge worlds, unite civilizations, and inspire a new era of interstellar harmony. And in that light, a new era had begun, one where humans and Litherians worked together, dreamed together, and shaped the galaxy together, guided by the timeless qualities that made them extraordinary: heart, mind, and the courage to act.